So maybe now 2 or 3 weeks I've been out of my creativity flow. I need to get back into that now. So how am I going to do that? So I have just got in on a Monday morning, and it does feel like a bit of a miracle that I made it, if I'm really honest, but I also feel a bit more energy, so that's amazing. And I know I'm not the only one to have any illnesses out there, because I know there's a lot of poorly people who are commenting that they're really, really sick. So get well soon and do all the things that you should be doing to get well, and rest, rest, rest on top of everything. But for me, I think I'm coming out the other side, if you like. I feel like I've been in this foggy tunnel, if you like, where nothing seems real. And then, yeah, over the weekend I started feeling a little bit more like myself again. So that's really good news for me. So I hope you get well soon out there if you're still not feeling very well. And of course, you don't need me to tell you to listen to your body and do the best you can, basically, with what you've got. But I think the top priority is sleep and rest. So don't do what I did in last week's video, basically, and try and do too much too soon. Learned my lesson, didn't I? So now I'm in one of those positions where I haven't been creating in my regular kind of routine, in my norm, if you like. So maybe now 2 or 3 weeks I've been out of my creativity flow, and I need to get back into that now. So how am I going to do that? There are a number of things I do to get back into my flow, and the first thing that I do in order to do that is to show up. Simply show up. I'm at the studio. So in a way, at the moment, I wish I had my home studio set up, because yeah, I think that would help me out a little bit. And I still don't think I'm back to my optimum energy level, so I'm still going to just be very aware and listen to my body and go home and rest when I need to. But I definitely feel a lot better. And so showing up for me today is the best thing, definitely. And the next thing I do is I kind of, make a plan. So I've got my notepad, pen. I personally prefer to have pen and paper rather than an app, but maybe, you know, some people like to use notes or something like that on your phone. Make a plan. It works for me anyway, and I like a routine, and I like to have a schedule. So if I've got things in a little list, not too big, long a list, just maybe 2 or 3 things, or even sometimes 1 thing a day that is my focus, that works best for me. And then step 3 is do the stuff on the list. So it helps at that point as well if you have the list set up in priorities. Put the important stuff at the top, basically, and do that first. So it doesn't have to be a big, massive plan for the next week or the next month. It doesn't have to be a really, really long list, and it doesn't have to have all colour-coded and be all complicated. It could literally be 2 or 3 things that you would feel better at the end of the day if you'll have ticked those off. And then you can jump in with, say, a timer or the Pomodoro method, something like that, where you do something for 5, 10 or 15 minutes. And then you can either switch task if you're doing the Pomodoro, or you can have a rest if you're just doing a timed activity. And that can really help jumpstart you back into some action. Because as the fairy said last week in the little book I made, take some action towards following your dreams. You can't just have these dreams in your head. You have to actually take a little bit of action towards them, and then things start to happen, things starts to open up. So just to say as well, I'm sorry I haven't really been showing up on my Instagram recently. I've kept up, while I've been poorly, I have kept up with all the Patreon stuff and kept everybody updated in there. And I kind of let the Instagram have a little bit of quiet time, if you like, which, to be absolutely honest, has done me good. And I know if you're on there, you probably don't mind and stuff. But yeah, I will try and be a little bit more active on the Insta this week and get back to that as well, because I miss you all on there as well. But suffice to say, you know, just like everybody else, I'm just doing my best. And that is good enough, isn't it? If we're just doing our best. Right, so I'm going to find my teacup now, because I think it's time for a little cup of tea together, don't you? I've been in the studio about half an hour and I haven't poured my cup of tea yet, so I'm going to do that next. So I've been drawing now for a good few hours actually, just sat in my little nook drawing away, and I think I'm going to go home now because I'm going to pace myself a little bit. Even though I feel a lot better, I'm going to be good, and just, I think I've been in about 4 hours, so time just disappears when you're sat drawing, especially in this little nook. I just feel like I'm in a world of my own. It's really nice. I'll turn the camera around and show you what I've been doing. So I'm just starting a new fairy, kind of looking at some of my previous drawings. And yeah, I think I'm going to paint this one and yeah, do a proper painted version, I think, on here, which will be, yeah, it's been a little while since I've done one. And then I'm thinking of doing a whole sort of collection of cards and stickers and things like that, and yeah, maybe some new products for the shop, because I've kind of been neglecting the shop a little bit recently, but you can't do everything. You can't keep up with everything, I think, and yeah, there's lots of branches to doing what I do, really. I think for everybody there are, aren't they? So when you've got a few branches going on, you can't necessarily juggle everything at the same time, and that's okay. So I'm okay with that. I do, however, I need to go home to do a little bit more work, because I do tend to work quite a lot at home as well, actually, but I've got to pack up the Patreon Happy Mail and get that posted definitely by tomorrow, and James has said he'll help me probably tonight. So if I get that started when I get home, have something to eat as well, because I'm getting hungry, and yeah, I think that's about it for today. So nothing else to tell you of any great interest, and yeah, in a way it's just been a kind of quiet, snuggled down, snug as a bug drawing date really for me. So that's been a nice way back in. And was it difficult to start? I guess that's the main question, isn't it, seeing as I'm trying to get back into my work. It was a little bit, if I'm honest. I did feel some resistance at first before I put my, you know, pencil to the paper, blank page and a new project and all that. But I just went for it really, and used some of my sort of previous drawings to get myself inspired. And I think I've mentioned before, that's one of the things I really like to do, is spend a little bit of time getting inspired, finding my inspiration, finding a little starting point. It doesn't have to necessarily be a whole direction or a plan of a project, but just a starting point where I feel lit up and inspired, and then I can jump straight into the drawing. And yeah, pencil you can rub out, so there's no big problem there. So if you're making excuses about starting, you could watch my video on how to start anything, which I'll link up there somewhere, because it's the most favourite video I think I've ever made out of all my videos, and I think there's almost 100 videos on here now, which is mind-blowing to me because I can't imagine doing that many videos. But anyway, oh, and the other thing you could do if you're scared to start is to start in pencil or one of those pencil crayons that you can erase, because you can always rub it out if you go wrong. You don't have to show anyone. Anyway, I'm going to go now before I start doing a Wendy waffle. So I'm in fairly early today, for me recently anyway, and the light's so pretty. Yeah, beautiful morning light in here. I think it's going to be a really nice warm day as well. Yes, so quite a lot to do today if I am sticking to my weekly schedule, which I've just kind of done like a week in my diary of kind of mapping a few things out that I really would like and kind of need to get done this week. Happy Mail posted is one of them, so that is almost done now because I sat last night and packaged all that up. So I just need to put the tape on the envelopes and take them to the post office. So that's all I need to do with that. And then I'd quite like to have a little drawing session. And it's podcast day as well, so I'm going to do the podcast. I'll probably do that later. I'll probably do that about 3 o'clock. But yeah, it's really pretty in here. And yeah, I'll just show you the studio. It's a bit of a mess, but it's looking pretty. So hang on a sec. So I've still got plants everywhere because I kind of moved. Well, James's plants are now into the light. They were in the plant hospital. And this little one as well, bless, has actually got a flower. So I pruned everything off and I've made sure she's been watered, and yeah, she's looking a bit better. So hopefully we can sort her out even more. But look at the gerbera. The gerbera's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 flowers, and then down here you can see there's another one coming. Isn't that cute? A little flower, so pretty. So she'll probably need some water today as well. I also just want to order some St John's wort as well, so I think I'll do that because I'm running a little bit low. So I basically take St John's wort for my emotional well-being, if you like. So it's very helpful if you've been feeling quite low. And yeah, after my illness, I was kind of noticing that I feel quite low, quite down, and I don't really have reason to. So I'm just going to use some of that and also get out and get some vitamin D as well in the sunshine, hopefully. Although there's a few clouds. Yes, it's not that promising because clouds are coming, which is kind of, yeah, England all over for you. Let's see how fast I can tape these envelopes. So, almost done, just putting the last bits of tape on. I tend to put tape on them just to make sure they, I don't know, get there safe. And the plastic-free one takes a little bit longer to work with, but it's worth it for the environment, isn't it? Because this stuff's horrible. Anyway, I better get this finished. And I might pour a cup of tea as well, so.
Side by side our fears are done. All the good times just begun. Oh, we know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right. With you and I, the future is bright.
So I've hit a bit of a lull for the afternoon, and I thought, well, I should really share that with you, because it's a whole part and parcel of the difficulty of getting back into our usual routine, whether that means, you know, artwork, or whether it means, you know, doing something else. After a period of being ill, or just away on holiday, or just away from it, or just feeling lack of inspiration, creative block and that kind of thing, it can be really, really hard to get back into things, can't it? I think we all feel that. So one of the things I like to do is to work really small, which is, you saw this last week, my little fairy book. Anyway, loads of ideas of other projects going on, but I want to focus on some artwork. And I've got to the point in the day now, it must be about 1:30ish, and I haven't done anything yet creative. So I've been really busy. I've been doing some errands, basically. Everything's in the post, apart from one thing that I just need to put an extra item in for somebody. But anyway, it's done. So that's fine. I don't mind, you know, if there are errands to run. But what I notice is, if I do have a lot of errands in the day and then I don't sit down to actually work on my artwork until the afternoon, that's not my power time, if you like. My power time is much more in the morning, first thing, catch myself early and get on with it, basically. And then I notice myself getting in the flow and ebbing and flowing between in the flow and some kind of tiredness and taking little breaks, and that works for me really, really well. I just thought I would talk a little bit about, you know, how I'm going to actually get round that this afternoon. And one of the things I like to do is to do a thing where I don't expect too much of myself. So what I like to do is take the pressure off, so that I don't have that overwhelmed feeling, because I can't make art while I'm feeling overwhelmed. So I take the pressure off a bit, and I know that if I go home now and just focus on the podcast, that's great, and you know, that should be enough work for the day and that kind of thing, and I should feel quite happy at the end of the day that I've done enough, and I will have. But I know that I'll feel a bit disappointed if I haven't made any additions to my fairy. So I don't know if you can see that, because she's really light at the minute. There are a couple of changes I want to make, just a couple of things, and then maybe add a little bit of colour as well if I get that far. So I'm just going to do a couple of little somethings, and that's kind of what I was doing last week as well with my little teeny tiny book. Just a little something, and that's good enough. And I think, you know, that's the point I'm trying to make here. Even though I went a little bit Wendy waffly, didn't I? Sorry about that. But yeah, just take the pressure off yourself. Take as much overwhelm away. Get the things done, yes, that you need to get done. I had to go to the post office. I had to go and get that happy mail in the post. That was really necessary. I think because my energy's not quite back yet after being poorly, yeah, it's all felt a little bit of a challenge. I think life just does feel like a challenge most of the time at the moment for a lot of people. And I really look forward to, you know, bedtime. I really love bedtime, and I've been going to bed a bit earlier than I normally would because it's helping me get some more sleep. I'll go into that maybe another time, because it's all to do with a rather noisy neighbour actually. But anyway, that's kind of my routine, and I really, really enjoy going to bed early at the moment, and I really, really enjoy reading my book and having that wind down time. Now I've shifted my evening routine, and I often find, you know, mornings quite overwhelming. You have an influx of natural hormones that come into your system to gear your system up, stress hormones if you like, which aren't all bad. Stress hormones are actually useful as well, aren't they? So it's a balance. It's definitely a balance, and I think it's more of a fine-tuning after everything that we've all been through in the world. plus the other stuff that happens as well, like illness and relatives being ill and all sorts of worries in between that. And also just trying to get your own stuff done. Just trying to get your own stuff done in your own world without upsetting anybody else, without, you know, taking too much on, without saying yes to everything. And it's just, yeah, it's a lot. So I often find cutting out my to-do list is my best way forward. So yeah, I've made a few decisions on this. I've been sitting here pondering and percolating on her, and I'm thinking I can change a few things about the drawing as well. And I'm filming this whole process, which goes up on the Patreon, and that's where the arty content usually goes. Anyway, suffice to say, I've got a few fairies going on at the minute, because we had, a few weeks ago, we had the letting go fairy in my art journal, and I'd like to do something else with her as well. So I might be doing some journaling sheets with her, because I think that she'd make a really nice art journaling sheet. And then of course I've got my little teeny tiny fairies as well. And then I've got a whole collection of fairies that I've had, yeah, I've got like my drawing collection, if you like, of fairies. And I've got quite a few, I've got around me. Somebody said this morning on the Patreon that, oh, it's nice to be surrounded by friends. But you know, when I do a sketch, I often keep them in my drawing folder. And then I thought, for inspiration yesterday, I could, you know, dig out a few older fairies and do them in a different way, but use them as a starting point, if you like. So that's what I've been doing. Anyway, I think it's time to actually get some action going on. But not too much and for not too long, because I know that I've got a big chunk of work when I get home. I definitely don't want to be doing too much right now. I definitely want to be thinking about my healing after my illness and getting my energy and my strength back to normal. Being a good boss, a bossy boss as well. You have to be really bossy with yourself. Have you noticed that? Like more bossy with yourself than with other people. Anyway. So since yesterday, I didn't actually do what I set out to do, which was to go home and do the podcast recording. So the podcast is actually going up today. So I cut myself a bit of slack and gave myself some grace and some extra nurturing by giving myself permission just to juggle things around a little bit, because I just really got into my painting yesterday afternoon. And by the time I'd finished and wanted to go home, I was too tired when I got home to actually do the podcast. And I don't want to sound like a tired bunny on the podcast, so I thought I could do that today. So I've come in the studio, I've done a little bit more to this fairy, and just trying to finalise her flower and done some work on her face and stuff. But I think I'm going to leave it there and actually go home at a sort of, I think it's probably about 1 o'clock now. So I've got a good few hours of energy to do the podcast. And I think it's important to remember, isn't it, that we all go through these times where we're not in our flow, we're not in our creative flow or even our life flow. And so give yourself some grace, I think, is kind of where I'm at the moment. So that could be a little reminder for anyone out there that needs to hear that one. And if you just do a little something in the right direction, as the little fairy book said last week, you can feel so much better. And then you rest better, you rest more deeply and more peacefully because you've done that little bit of effort, you've showed up, you tried, you did your best. So yeah, you kind of feel a little bit more deserving, if you like, of a rest. But we all deserve a rest and we all deserve breaks. So anyway, thank you so much for keeping me company. Try to keep your lights shining bright and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now. Mwah.
You could see yourself just sitting there